Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi, Pak. Selamat datang, Pak. Terima kasih sudah bergabung, Pak. Bisa bergabung.
Siap, Pak Dubes, siap.
Oh, siap. Sampai sini.
Oh, banyak.
So we had 130 registrations for our event
really?
today. So let's see how many. Yeah.
And
So let's see how many.
mostly from the Netherlands or from Indonesia?
Really, it's a nice mix. I think about 60% from Indonesia and 40% from the Netherlands. We also very interestingly have again a participant from Somalia. Who,
very good.
Great.
It's good.
Excellent.
So kalau begitu selamat dong.
And some from Bangkok.
Congratulations, Pak Dubes juga. Keep promoting Indonesia.
Iya, Pak.
Saya udah rindu ya Pak Dubes. Balik lihat Netherlands.
Oh, ya.
Iya, Pak ya. Sebenarnya saat ini paling mulai enak, Pak, karena mulai hangat, mulai cerah, mulai indah.
Tapi nggak boleh keluar.
Tapi
2 tahun yang lalu kami ke sana, Pak. Pas bulan ini ya. Bulan apa, Pak Busnu ya?
Iya, pas bulan ini, Pak. Pas bulan ini. Februari, Pak.
Februari.
Iya, Februari.
Februari ya, Pak?
Iya.
Februari ya, Pak?
Iya.
Kami itu kalau ke Belanda, ke tempat yang orang nggak pernah ke sana, Pak Dubes.
Iya.
Saya ke dulu kan ke ini, Special Collections Leiden Library, Pak.
Oh.
Karena cari info zaman tahun 1800, 1700 gitu, Pak. Iya.
Lengkap, Pak ya.
Lengkap, Pak, luar biasa.
Iya, banyak memang dokumen-dokumen lama banyak.
Lama.
Ya.
Dan yang paling menarik kalau lama dan baru, Pak. Kalau
iya.
Bapak browse di katalognya Leiden Library, katalog, Pak. Itu ada 16 buku karangannya Indroyono Susilo, Pak.
Oh. Jadi kami cari, Pak.
Saya tinggal sana, Pak. Untuk nanti katanya kan kalau di Quran juga nanti kan ditinggalkan itu kan bisa nambah amal jariah kan, Pak.
Betul, Pak.
Tambah argo, tambah poin.
Tambah poin, jadi saya tinggal di sana gitu. Itu karena koleksinya bagus.
Tiap dibaca orang poinnya nambah, Pak.
Ya, makanya. kemarin pas ke sana kami bawa juga itu. Udah masuk, saya cek di katalog udah masuk, Pak.
Okay, all of friends, excuse me. We have a lot of presentations today and very interesting kata sambutan, introductions.
Okay, we should start.
It's 3 o'clock. It's 2 minutes past 3. So, if you don't mind, I would like to open our webinar today. Selamat datang, very welcome, hartelijk welkom. This is our 4th webinar on port development and maritime development in Indonesia. This is organized by the Netherlands Ministry for Infrastructure and Waterways, and in Indonesia, the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment. And we, the STC Group in Rotterdam, facilitate this dialogue. Well, I think today's dialogue will be more like a reunion than maybe a meeting, because it looks like all speakers, and including Pak Dubes, know each other very well. Today, we will focus on Pelra shipping, on the traditional wooden Indonesian ships. One of the key questions that we would like to discuss today is, what is the future of this traditional fleet in modernizing Indonesia? It should not only be something that you subsidize, but it's also maybe something that makes economic sense. Well, as we are very busy today, I would like to leave my introduction here. Please use mute, and if you have questions or remarks, please use the chat function. I would like to give the floor now to our first distinguished guest, which is the Deputy Minister for Maritime Sovereignty and Energy of the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment, Bapak Basilio Diaz Araujo. Bapak Basilio, please. Thank you.
Henry, Sandy, thank you very much for your introduction. His Excellency, Ambassador Maya First, our Indonesian Ambassador in Den Haag, Mr. Hans de Brambandel, Pak Indriyono Susilo, Pak Sondi Amar, and other speakers that I respect. And I feel actually so small, speaking in front of Pak Indriyono Susilo and Pak Sondi Amar. I used to be, not I used to be, Professor Indriyono Susilo used to be my minister before. And I was received by Minister Susilo at that time as one of Assistant Deputy in charge of maritime security. And during His Excellency's tenure in my ministry, Professor Susilo trusted me to go to attend several international meetings at FAO, IMO, including UNEP. So here I am, and I think I got a very successful education from Professor Susilo Indriyono, that after being the Assistant Deputy Minister, and today I can make myself one of the Deputy Minister. So which shows that at least the selection that was made by Professor Indriyono at that time was correct, was the right person at the right place. Thank you very much, Pak Indriyono Susilo, for the trust that he gave me into 2015. Well, and also I would like to thank the organizer of this webinar that give me this opportunity to talk first or to give the opening remarks. Indonesia and the Netherlands extended the maritime MOU in February 2018 during the third bilateral maritime forum in Jakarta. Both countries, of course, wish to continue the maritime cooperation with a special focus on ports, education, and shipbuilding, and would like to come to more concrete results in the coming years, involving public and private sectors and knowledge institutes from Indonesia and Netherlands. And I think we trust all of this task to our Ambassador Mayerfres in the Netherlands, to do all the negotiations with our partners in the Netherlands. And also, of course, once it comes to national level, we are ready to for the cooperation with any parties from the Netherlands who wants to cooperate with our national institutions. Today, the topic of our webinar is Pelra shipping or Pelayaran Rakyat, yeah, in its prospect and in a globalized world. And I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I attended an IMO meeting when there was discussed about the types of fishing vessels, and wooden fishing vessels was included in one of the negotiations. And I had to correct one of the sentences in that maybe a resolution. I think it was a resolution, IMO resolution on the fishing vessel. So I contributed on that side. So far we have already had 3 series of webinars. The first webinar provided a general introduction to the most important issues. The second webinar focused on sustainability in port investments. And in the third webinar, we looked at a related topic, which is shipbuilding, in particular, financing for shipbuilding. And regarding the investments in the port system, for example, I remember 2 years ago, I accompanied my Minister Luhut at that time. We went to Nipah area, and I think we got an assistance from the Netherlands in order to design a port that we want to be built in the Nipah Island. But I think after that meeting, after that visit, the project didn't go ahead. And of course, I'm still looking forward to have any cooperations on this supposed port that was under discussion. In this occasion, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the involved ministries, the Indonesian Embassy in Den Haag, with the presence of His Excellency Ambassador today here, the involved agencies, and all the parties who have organized the series of webinars. The webinars were followed by the joint development of a vision document, which will strategically address and overcome the challenges faced by Indonesia in the port and maritime sector, and help the Dutch companies to enter the Indonesian market. I believe these webinars were extremely useful to identify problems and seek solutions that are needed. His Excellency Ambassador Mayerfas, Mr. Hans de Brabander, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, historical facts show that since the days of the kingdoms and sultanates, the Pelra shipping using the traditional wooden ships has been instrumental in building a tradition of inter-island relations, 19-day archipelago. Even today, in our small islands, where big ships cannot go, we still rely on our wooden ships. So these ships really play a very pivotal role in our national shipping. So this traditional relationship strengthens the reason for the establishment of the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which makes Indonesia the largest archipelago country in the world with enormous natural wealth. Pelayaran Rakyat is still meritorious, providing transportation between islands and to small, remote, and outermost islands on the border regions in Indonesia. And I think all of us in Indonesia, we still remember that Mr. President Joko Widodo, after being appointed as the elected president for the 2014-2019 period, delivered his first speech at Pelayaran Rakyat ship at Sunda Kelapa Harbor, conveying the Nawacita program, including maritime development. And also law number 17 of 2008 on shipping mandates the Minister of Transportation as the supervisor of the public shipping. However, even though various arrangements and programs have been made, the conditions of Pelra are still, need attention. And if it is left unchecked, this Pelra issue would go extinct if we do not pay attention to this Pelra existence. And Pelra, which can be categorized as a small business group, cannot be allowed to become increasingly helpless and less prosperous. And I think today our fishing fleets are still relying on these wooden ships. The businessmen, ship crews, and communities related to Pelayaran Rakyat should not suffer in this situation. So indeed, development boosts progress and prosperity, but it must provide welfare in a just and equitable manner. I remember visiting our port in Bali last 2 weeks when I asked our fishing associations there why our crews, or most of Indonesian fishing crews, do not go on board the fishing vessels for the second time. So I asked them, what have you depicted, or have you tried to find out why, or what's the reason then that caused our crews not to work at the second time on our fishing vessels? Whether the reason is because they are too small, the size are too small, or the rooms are not good to accommodate the crews, or any other reasons. In addition, we must defend, and we must also take sides with and empower these groups. Because Pelayaran Rakyat plays an important role in serving the wider community in small, remote, and outermost islands. And its empowerment will also have a positive impact on the welfare of the wider community. So Pelayaran Rakyat, which has been proven capable of providing transportation between small, remote, and outermost islands, must be maintained for connectivity reliance. Even though there is a toll, the president introduced the term as toll road or a sea highway program, there are still more water areas between small, remote, and outermost islands which have not been served by conventional shipping vessels. So Pelayaran Rakyat ships are still needed. So furthermore, if the state and nation are in a state of emergency, for example, in a state of disaster or war, in an energy crisis, or in any other situation which do not allow conventional ship to conduct activities, I think Pelayaran Rakyat still have a room to play in this situation. So all the discussions of or forums or webinars we have conducted are needed to get ideas and input from experts in the field of public shipping from within and outside the country, which can be used as some of the consideration to develop some alternatives to affirmative policy recommendations for Pelayaran Rakyat ships or fleets in Indonesia. Policymakers should not only discuss policies on the table, but also experience at first hand the conditions of Pelayaran Rakyat fleets or shipyards and ports, so that they can provide objective thoughts to strengthen the Pelayaran Rakyat fleets in Indonesia. In the context of cooperation, Indonesia and the Netherlands can open opportunities for bilateral cooperation between the two countries to exchange ideas on what matters can be cooperated in supporting the affirmative policy for the Pelayaran Rakyat fleet. This is because the Netherlands has a history related to Pelayaran Rakyat fleet in Indonesia. Some heritages related to the history of the Dutch shipyards that are currently still in use, including the dockyard in Tanjung Pandan City, Belitung Regency, which is an example of the historical role of the Dutch government and the development of the Pelra fleets in Indonesia. So the Indonesian government is always committed to creating a better climate for foreign investment in Indonesia, especially the investment coming from Netherlands. I want to thank all of the organizers and all of the speakers and all of the participants that come and join and meet in this webinar today. Thank you very much, and back to you, Henry.
Thank you very much, Pak Basilio. Without much further ado, I would like to go directly to our second guest of honor, Bapak Maya Fast. Papa is the Indonesian ambassador in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and we're looking forward to hear from you, Pak. Silakan.
Bapak Basilio, Bapak Hans from Embassy of Netherlands in Jakarta, Pak Hans, Pak Henry as a moderator, Pak Indroyono, thank you, Pak, for joining us in this webinar, the fourth one, Pak. The speakers and participants, good morning, selamat pagi from The Hague. It is an honor for me to welcome you to the Fourth of Indonesia and the Netherlands Maritime webinar. Today, our discussion It's about Pelra shipping, prospect in globalized world from Indonesia and Dutch perspective. As Pelra is a Pelayaran Rakyat or people shipping, often considered as informal sea transport sector. Pelra is traditional, but remain important for Indonesia as an archipelagic country, as Pak Basilio have mentioned. In Indonesia, Pelra mainly carries essential goods and also general cargo. It plays important role in some routes and markets, especially between large islands and isolated areas such as remote islands with limited accessibility. In short, Pelra is connect the people and their economy. However, recently Pelra faces challenges that need to be addressed to be able to compete and keep their existence in the globalized world. Some of the challenges are building a sustainable ship, licensing, and in the aspect of safety. I'm aware that inland shipping is also important for Netherlands. In fact, the Dutch have the largest fleet inland vessel in Europe and play a great role for hinterland connection in a safe, economically viable, and sustainable way. In this regard, I highly hope that today's webinar could provide us with a platform to discuss and share experiences of both Indonesia and the Netherlands in traditional shippings, and to promote cooperation and collaboration of both countries in addressing the challenges faced by traditional shipping. So, Pelra is considered as traditional ship transport. I believe that in addressing the challenges, we should and must use an innovative and integrated approach for a better Pelra in the future. In this regard, I hope that discussion could highlight three important objectives of Pelra. First, to increase the role of Pelra in remote islands with limited accessibility. Second, to ensure in the safety and sustainability of Pelra. And third, for Pelra also to play a role in creating job opportunities and promote welfare of people. I wish we will have a fruitful discussion with the webinar. And once again, thank you very much for your time, for your participation. Stay healthy. Terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Henry.
Thank you, Pak Dubas. Thank you, Pak Mayafas. Very happy that you're here with us today. And I understand it's not still a bit cold in the Netherlands, so I hope you manage. Thank you. I would like to go now directly to our third speaker for the opening remarks. That is a representative of the Netherlands Embassy in Jakarta. We are happy that we have with us the head of the economic department, Pak Hans den Brabander. Pak Hans, please. I think you're still muted, Hans.
Yes. Yeah, is it good so, in this way? Okay, start all over again. Thank you, Henry. Good to be here, and thanks for giving me the chance to say some words. Your Excellency, Deputy Minister Bapak Basilio Diaz Araujo, and Your Excellency, Ambassador Mayafas, Selamat Pagi, Pa, Goedemorgen, from Jakarta. Dear guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank all the partners involved in organizing this event as part of the webinar series under the Maritime Cooperation between Indonesia and the Netherlands. It is for me a great pleasure to be here with you today to discuss this fascinating subject of people's shipping known as Pelra, Pelayaran Rakyat. I hope that I pronounce it in the right way. Pelra obviously plays a crucial role, I learned, in ensuring connectivity between places in Indonesia, connecting islands, transporting goods and people, and so economic activities and livelihoods everywhere can be supported. And this, of course, in line with the Sustainable Development Goals in providing inclusive and sustainable economic growth for everyone. And considering its significant role, there are plenty of opportunities to empower Pelra shipping even further as a pioneering mode of transport for goods and people in Indonesia. For instance, in scaling up its competitiveness and amplifying its contribution to the economy. In that sense, both our countries share similar views in supporting smart and sustainable transport systems and logistics systems, including water transportation. And as you know, this was recently also highlighted by our ambassador Lambert Grijns at the presentation on transport systems in the Netherlands, at a meeting with the Minister of Transport, His Excellency Budi Karya Sumadi. This is an element that cannot be separated from the growth of our economies. Waterways in each of our countries have enormous untapped potential. And for example, the Netherlands is a country with the largest inland navigation fleet in Europe, with 30% share within all transport. It has a big capacity, it means on-time delivery, and it's environmentally friendly and safe. So I'm sure that both our countries share ambitious goals in enhancing sustainable water transportation, and opportunities are wide to exchange expertise and collaborate together. Indonesia and the Netherlands already established a strong maritime cooperation, and it is one of the main reasons we are here. In this session, I'm positive that together we could identify potential areas to collaborate for a future-looking maritime sector, and in this case, through shipping. Under the Dutch Maritime Future is Now campaign, the Netherlands calls for international partnership to change course towards a sustainable blue economy, unlocking the full potential of healthy and productive oceans and seas. And we support collaboration between the private sector, knowledge institutions, and the government working closely together on smart, sustainable solutions. So this webinar is a concrete example of this approach. And another example that I would like to showcase is, of course, our Partners for International Business program from RVO, Rijksdienst voor Ondernemend Nederland. Cluster focusing on shipbuilding, which has been involved in this webinar series. And by working together with their Indonesian counterparts, the shipbuilders and suppliers in this cluster work together to find sustainable innovation solutions. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, this is our 4th webinar in the series with more webinars to come. We are getting to know each other's strengths better, and our connection is getting stronger. I'm confident that we can strengthen one way or another in many, many areas. So I wish you an inspiring exchange of knowledge during this webinar, and I wish you also a very fruitful discussion with good results. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pa Hans. I would like to go directly to our first presenter. And what a presenter it is Bapak Sondiamar, who studied, he's from Bandung, if I'm not mistaken. He studied in ITB Bandung, and he has a PhD in public policy from the University of Pittsburgh in the United States. He held various important positions within the Indonesian government, such as a Deputy Minister for Papua Affairs at the Vice President's Office. And at the moment, he's also advisor to the Pelra Association. Pa Sondiamar is also the initiator of an upcoming presidential decree to empower Pelra shipping. And I understand that this upcoming presidential decree will be the focus of his presentation. Pa Sondiamar, silakan, please.
Thank you very much, Pa Henry. Your Excellency, Pak Deputi, Pak Basido, Pak Dubes, Pak Hans, Pak Indriyono, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished attending this webinar. Good morning and good afternoon. I hope this my presentation will answer all the questions and concern you, because this is actually the policy, the affirmative policy of the Republic of Indonesia to come. I was the one that drafting the law, the regulation, and it was a long time ago actually, and I'm just successful to be the final draft. So what I'd like to present now is actually the brief of the draft, final draft, people's traditional shipping. Peraturan Presiden for empower right now is the draft is on perhaps on the table of Mr. President, because 2 months ago it was in State Secretary already, after discussion, long discussion, 1 year, more than 1 year actually. This is actually aimed to be national pride of the greatest archipelagic state. So we would like to have the extraordinary artistic fleet in this big country, important for SME activity, as well as contribute to national inter-island connectivity resilience. So for the next, this affirmative policy actually to empower, to revitalize, promote, so that the cultural heritage activity is not only able to exist with strong competitive capacity, but also to be national pride of the greatest archipelagic state. It has been actually initiated in presidential instruction 15 years ago, when I was also chairman for that instruction. It was included as empowerment for Pelayaran Rakyat, but no action, no implementation result so far. Until Pak Joko Widodo elected president in 2014, I tried to push again to bring this draft to some ministers, and some ministers were very good, including Pak Indriyono, but yeah, Bappenas as well, not long in office, so not continue. Until finally, I tried to push to coordinating ministry for maritime affairs 2019. Mr. Ridwan Jamaluddin received that and took the leadership. So now the draft is in the State Secretary to be signed. I hope no more question, because many ministers have put the signature. Yes, it is true that actually we are in an irony. There is a sunny side of maritime industries and Pelra is slummy side. On one side, Indonesia as the greatest archipelagic country has big opportunity for developing its maritime industries, shipping and shipbuilding. After presidential instruction issued 2005, Indonesian fleet added by 18,000 new vessels. I mean vessels, not new all. So Indonesian flag vessels. So now the cabotage 98%, only 2% left, not Indonesian flag. According to UNCTAD data, United Nations Conference on the Trade and Development, Indonesia as a maritime country has a very good opportunity, has jumped up very fast. So this is really big country, big opportunity. Even Indonesia could have possibility to be the global hubs of the world. Yeah. However, now in contrast, Pelayaran Rakyat is a slummy side. On the other hand, it's an irony. The number of vessels are decreasing, reducing toward extinction. And the age too old. 20 years ahead, if there is no policy, then it will be finished, extinct. Ports, yeah, the ports as well, not as well. The ports also not good. 14 of busiest ports of Indonesia, Pelra ports, are still operating, but the condition is getting smaller, smaller, invaded by the iron ships, and getting shallower. Since 50 years ago, no change. While on the other side, actually, and the fact is, over 500 places in Indonesia visited by Pelra ships. Over 500 places visit, but have no ports at all. So you can imagine that's the sadness. That's why we have to have affirmative action. We'll just skip that. The objectives of this policy, number one is to renew the technology of the ships and equipments with keeping uniqueness of the traditional shape and wooden material predominantly. Number two, to promote demand for services so that they can earn income, right? So to improve the economy. Number three, to provide access to capital and materials needed for building traditional ships. Number four, to develop human resources and management. Number five, to provide facility and infrastructures, including to build exotic ports to be civic centers. Okay, so we'll have three desired conditions with this by this affirmative action. Number one, Pelra ships must be all new version, but the shape still. The new version is including technology for construction, velocity, energy, navigation, operating equipments for the type of ships and function. Number two, the function of the ships also we would like to expand. So not only passengers and general cargo, but we would like to design, special design for container, for Pelra. Smaller container that can fit the big container and fit to modular to the Pelra ship, as well as for liquid, and as Indonesia will develop for tourism. This is very potential. This is the mandate from the President's regulation. BPPT, the Republic of Indonesia of Technology Development Center, shall provide design. Perhaps the Netherlands could support that center. Number two, the Ministry for Forestry provides special wood needed by Pelra, including to develop wood industry for ships. Of course, many other ministries will support. The second desired condition, only three. The second desired condition, Pelra ports must become exotic civic centers, because in all time and in many still in remote areas, ports are civic center. When ships dock coming, well, there is a dangdut, music, etc. right over there, and becomes new market, pasar baru, pasar malam, pasar sore. Very nice. And in the future, perhaps becomes a millennial future activity in the very exotic places. So it's good for internal tourism as well as, of course, for external. There will be hierarchy of ports according to level of responsibility. National government, provincial government, local government must do something for the ports. integrated with marina and mooring buoys. Right. Number 3, international ports of entry equipped with CIQP, custom immigration, port clearance, and quarantine. We need also to renew the technology of equipment for the ports. So we are not going to let people, bringing very, very big chunk go from the shore to ship. Very dangerous. We need to have a special design crane for Pelra, for example. We need this port equipped with standard facility and infrastructure. And of course, we need interministerial support. So all written as mandatory in the presidential regulation. Now, this is the third one, very important. And perhaps the Netherlands Kingdom could provide help for this. We would like to have a program, special program for empowerment, designed by government, initiated by government, included in perencanaan, RPJM, national planning, provincial planning. So this is the mandatory. Governments of all levels set programs for 5 years. Fleet development, procurement of 1,000 ships of various standard sizes and function. We need to develop this as business-wise. So not granted, business-wise. Facilitated access to capital, for example. Yeah. And fiscal incentives. Number 2, port system development also must be conducted by all levels of government, as well as by public-private partnership. We need also to promote marketing. So far, we could share some allocation of budget, state budget or provincial budget, that's spending for transportation to be used by Pelra so that they will earn income. And with contract, so they will earn income constantly for every year so that they can borrow the money from the bank. Number 4, government at all levels conduct other affirmative action, including human capital development, training, education, for operation and business management capacity, as well as to help integrate with other businesses, with perkebunan, ternak, for field, for agriculture, as well as for coal, something like that. That's 3 desired program, mainly written, mandatory, in affirmative policy. So actually that's the main policy. Before finish, let me introduce one person. I request a special appreciation to all participants here, to Abdul Rahim Paita. He's the owner of one fleet, Pelra. He was chairman of Pelra 20 years ago, and with me, always together with me 20 years, struggling, begging, promoting to every ministers. I go with him. So I'd like to introduce to you, this is the person, the gentleman that's very struggle, long time devotion with courage and passion. So that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Sondiama. Thank you very much. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen. Before we go to our next speaker, Mr. De Vretes, who joins us and who's a regular guest, raised a question. Pak De Vretes, would you maybe like to address it directly to all our participants? And please unmute yourself. Pak De Vretes, are you with us? If not, then I would like to ask a friend of mine.
Yes, I'm here.
Please go.
I'm here. Selamat sore. semua di Indonesia. I have a question about the Peninsula and the Indonesian Pelra ships. I know in Holland 40 years ago, I saw a ship called the Taiwan Clipper. It was officially an old sailing ship from Taiwan, but they modernized it with yacht interiors. And also new equipment like navigation and equipment to sail the ship by yourself. I think for a peninsula, you need a staff because it's a two-mast and it's too difficult to sail on your own. But I think there is a market for traditional ships with modern interior, as the former speaker already mentioned, to modernize it. And what's also very special is that I understand that the peninsula is built without a plan or without a drawing, that the people are able to build it just by looking at it. And there's also a very unique capability what people in Indonesia have. And in Europe and outside of the rest of the world, it is very difficult and it's a very unique talent. And I think that is also a product that you can promote. That how do they do that? That's actually my end. Of course, for the ports, well, the big problem is the implementation of the International Ship and Port Facility Code. That is very difficult in Indonesia. We have the same problem recently. This topic I talk about with Maluku because there's an Ambon Newport plans. And we're also starting to cooperate with the universities that now to prepare for the education for the future demands at the working force if the port is already being established. That's actually my only remark. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give the floor again to Pa Som, I'm now looking at an old friend of mine, Pa Setio Nugroho dari ITS Surabaya. I know that you've done a lot of work on designing specific containers. That was one of the issues that Pa Som mentioned. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that, Pa Setio, please? And don't forget to unmute yourself.
Terima kasih, Pak Henry. Good afternoon. My name is Setio Nugroho from ITS. We have been conducting a research, an array of research projects with our students on various aspects of Pelra, from the operation size, the design of a new packaging for Pelra ships, considering the traditional way of doing the cargo handling, and also an attempt to modernize Pelra operations by adopting information technology. Those are a few topics we have been doing so far. And I think it is necessary to do so. One of the issues of Pelra is safety. And many sources of accidents originate from shore operations during cargo handling. And we are also doing research in this way. And basically, we believe that Pelra, I share the ideas, the main ideas behind the presidential decree, the new one, to be to be signed soon. That our fellow citizens in remote islands are only connected by small boats, Pelra boats. Without them, they were nothing. They cannot live anymore. And this is something which we would like to raise attention on various aspects of the role of Pelra, tradition, economic aspects, and the quality of life of our fellow citizens in remote islands. And also the thing which is very important for Pelra is we have also studied the operations of Pelra, how to connect it into a modern merchant ship operations. We have identified a number of business processes to connect them. It is something which we have to do we should pay attention at it as well, not only the physical aspects of the boat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Setio. Before I give the floor again to Pak Son, I think we first move to our second speaker, and later after that we maybe have an opportunity for all of you to speak. So I'm really pleased to invite our second speaker for today, and that is Bapak Indroyono Susilo, who is very well known in Indonesia. He used to be he was a director at the FAO in Rome. He studied geology in the University of Iowa, and his most recent and important position in Indonesia was the coordinating minister for maritime affairs. So, Pak Susilo, Pak Indroyono, please.
Thank you, Pak Henry. Allow me to share the screen. Well, good afternoon, Excellency, Ambassador Mayerfas. Good morning, I'm sorry, Ambassador Mayerfas, and also good afternoon for Deputy Minister Basilio, Pak Sondiamar, Pak Henry, and Mr. Hans from the Netherlands Embassy in Jakarta. It's indeed an honor for me and first and foremost to be able to join the fourth webinar maritime cooperation between Indonesia and the Netherlands, and allow me also to share with you some issues on PNC. It was mentioned earlier by our colleague from the Netherlands of the PNC ship. I'm very happy to be here this afternoon because myself with Pak Sondiamar is already 21 years working together when we initiate the Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. And also with Pak Basilio, also we work together when we initiate the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs. So I think this is like a small reunion for everybody. So in the last 5 years, I was the honorary advisor of the Minister of Tourism of Indonesia, solely dedicated for marine tourism. So when you talk about Pelra, I like to share something which is more focused, which is to PNC ship. Not for all activities, but mostly for marine tourism. It's interesting to see that this is a traditional ship of Indonesia. It was come from the village we call Tanah Baru in Bulukumba Regency in South Sulawesi province, And it's a typical Bukinese traditional ship and has been built since the 14th century and made of wood. There are 2 masts and 7 sails, consists of 2 main sails, 7 top sails, and 3 jibs, the one at the front, 3 of those. And as was mentioned earlier, it was made without drawing, without naval architectural design. So mostly very traditional with many ritual steps to be taken. So there are 5 steps for construction of PNC ship traditionally. And mostly this is, traditional and a lot of, traditional and rituals, Step, for example, you should start to explore the woods on the 5th days and the 7th days of the month, because those are the good days to do that. Step number 2, you have to select the fit exact wood types for this kind of shapes, either ironwood, kayu besi, kayu bikti, kayu kandole, and also, of course, kayu jati, thick wood. Those are the 4 types of wood that really are fit to be used for the construction of the PNC ships. Number 3, again, step on the tree cutting, on the wood cutting, wood sawing, wood drying. It has to be conducted simultaneously in the traditional way. And also the ship nail laying, you have to do it also handmade, and ship construction also handmade. No glue, no nail. They're using wooden peg to do that. It's very interesting. So during the constructions, it was also interesting why, I don't know why, the ships would be faced toward northeast. This is the way. So to start with, so that means that facing the ocean, at the front of those. The wood cutting and sawing should be conducted without pause. So you need a very strong man, strong people, strong craftsmen, to continuously finishing the finishing. Now, when we launch the ship, it has to follow by ritual, ceremony, animal offering. If you will, there's a big finishing ship, cow, smaller one is lamb, something like that. So most of this is very traditional and follow many of the ritual for the construction of the ship of PNC. For example, two maize resemble the two Islamic Shahadat creeds, for example. 7 sails resemble 7 verses of Al-Fatihah Surah. 7 sails also resemble 7 world oceans. When we explore the wood for the ships, we had to select either day 5 or day 7 of the month. It only be built by 5 craftsmen, no more and no less. So we have to be ritual to do when an offering when the ship launched to the seas. So this is one of the PNC ships yard, in Tanah Bulukumba, in Tanah Beru. So that when they construct the ship, it has to face northeast. This is the way to do, and maybe this part of the ritual that they have to follow. And the construction has to conduct only by 5 craftsmen. See, you see this the design. They are not using drawing. They are not using the what do you call it, the naval architect's design. The problem will be later on is it needs to be standard. It needs to be certified from BKI, for example. Otherwise, sometimes it is difficult, for example, to go into like for marine tourism activities. So it has to be, because it has to be safe and secure. Otherwise, the tourists will be very not comfortable, working in this kind of a traditional boat. It is a long history that the PNC ship cruise all over the world, to America, Japan, to Africa. In the 17th century, the PNC ship traveled to Madagascar in Africa. In 86, I think the PNC ship reached Vancouver, Canada during the World Expo, Vancouver 1986. We sent the Vancouver from Jakarta. Took 60 days to reach Vancouver. And in 87, it reached Australia. And we are very honored and very happy that in 2017, PNC was accepted as the UNESCO World Heritage List. And next, yes, of course, it was mentioned by our first comment coming from my colleague from Netherlands. The main demand for PNC ship comes from Japan, Australia, France, China, the Philippines, Malaysia, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and also Austria. And the demands are increasing year by year. So everybody love to have this authentic traditional ships of PNC from South Sulawesi. The cost to build medium and large PNCs, the deluxe one, is around 140,000 to 700,000 US dollar. But small PNC is only cost around $10,000 to build. So there's a range of cost to build this kind of traditional ships. This is one of the PNC who made history. In 1986, 36-meter PNC Nusantara set sail from Jakarta on July 9, 1986, and arrived in World Expo 86 in Vancouver, Canada in September 15. So it took more than 62 days, to reach Vancouver, 10,000 miles, from Jakarta across the Pacific. I think you can imagine 36 meters across the ship across the Pacific, and reach Honolulu, stop over in Honolulu, and went directly to Vancouver, and excite the what do you call it, the visitors of the expo and Indonesian exhibition pavilion become top 10 of the pavilions in the expo who received the largest visitors because of this PNC Nusantara's arrival in Vancouver. So when this ship arrived in Vancouver in September 15, Canadian local with the canoes, receive the ships, and they pass the Granville Bridge. This is the bridge who are the border between the outside of Vancouver with within the Vancouver. And also interesting, when they pass Honolulu, the ships pass the big U.S. Navy USS carrier and when the ships are, pass the U.S. carrier, U.S. Navy carriers, the Navy U.S. Navy ships, send a salute this small boat because this is a seafarer from Indonesia, past 10,000 miles from Jakarta, they're able to reach Honolulu and straight to Vancouver. So this is the what do you call it, the crew of the PNC, and they are wearing the traditional seafarer bukunis, and this is a ship captain Cita Arcakusuma. I think he passed away just last year, so I think he's the one who brought this, and the cost of this boat in 1986 is 500 million rupiah. So, but at that time, I think the dollar is around 2,000. So you're talking about $25,000 at that time. Yeah. So the PNC also now, PNC become the commemoration with the stamps of the Vancouver Expo, and also in Indonesia currency, 100 rupiah. So PNC is very, very famous in our traditional Pelra. The PNC Cinta Laut joined the Wallacea expedition in 2004. This is when I was the Director General of the R&D agency in the Ministry of Marine Fisheries. We set the Wallacea expedition for flora and fauna exploration, marine exploration in this area, in South Sulawesi up to the Luwu in Central Sulawesi, and we were using the PNC also over there. Last but not least, this is the one that we are working right now. So when Mr. Sondiamar mentioned regarding, yes, this is need to be improved, need to be developed, improve the people's welfare and so on. But it's interesting that the PNC is now become a high-end marine tourism activities in Indonesia. I say high-end, because the demand is so big until before COVID. I'm talking about, okay? Because using PNC, there are 4 activities directly. You can do cruising, diving, dining, and eating, and sleeping. There's all, and maybe number 5. Sometimes we are also doing some mancing, game fishing. So 5 activities within one PNC in the PNC activities, and the route is mostly in the eastern part of Indonesia, with diving spot like in Raja Ampat, in Papua, Komodo, Halmahera, Sangi, and Sulawesi. The rate, you can imagine it, $2,000 to $3,000 for 5 to 9 days. And if you book this kind of ships, should take you at least 3 months, because you should, especially during the end of the year, during Christmas holiday, these are all fully booked. This kind of boat, and very modern and very luxurious, because this one is Chengho with in the Labuan Bajo Komodo. This one is Safari 7, Sangi, Lembe, Halmahera, and Morotai. This one. This is the Safari 7 Labuan Bajo Komodo. You can see, and you can see the long room. The interior is very, very deluxe. And now what we have to do is we ask PKI, Bureau Klasifikasi Indonesia, to certify this one, because we are bringing a foreign tourists, and I think it has to meet the standard of safety and also security of the ship itself. But the demand is so big, everybody wants to book with this kind of PNC ship. This is the master bedroom in Sea Safari 7. So everything is handmade, and the wood is a treasure wood, a very, very hard wood, for all this, and it's not cost for $2,000 to $3,000 for a trip of 5 to 9 days. The dining room of Sea Safari 8 like this. So it's now a big demand in Indonesia, and now that marine tourism we are targeting the marine tourism to be 40% of the total tourism. So at the total tourism before COVID, we are able to mobilize resources up to around $18 billion per year. So we hope that, if 40% coming from marine tourism, we are talking about $5 billion only from sailing, cruising, diving, and game fishing, and we're doing coastal tourism and so on. So it's a big business. yes, you mentioned by Pak Sondiamar in the port itself. Yes, one of the tourist destination now is the capital city, the Sunda Kelapa port. This is owned by the Pelindo 2 company, and in their master plan, this will become a modern Pelra port, because Pelindo 2 is Pelindo 2 is a state-owned company, and also they will become the port for cruise ships to be landed to Jakarta. So the cruise ships that arrive in Jakarta will arrive and will port in this new Sunda Kelapa port, not in the old Tanjung Priok port, because actually those are not designed and dedicated for cruise ships. And for the conclusion, I think I have posed 6 issues. First, PDC is traditional ship for the Bugis people, South Sulawesi since 14th centuries. It is no drawing and no architectural design, and they only follow inherited traditional ways, full of rituals. Interesting. In the meantime, I think it has to be patented, and it has to have a certified in terms of safety. Otherwise, it's difficult if we continue to become like a traditional ways. The PDC is being built with only 5 craftsmen and fully handmade. Okay. In 2017, the PDC has been accepted in the UNESCO World Heritage List. And demand for PDC, and I think I'm looking forward if we have one prototype working together with my colleague from Netherlands, and let us use those as one of the outcome of this webinar, that we plan to have a prototype of PDC, jointly developed and produced and constructed by Indonesia and the Netherlands, and become, this is different than other PDCs for cargoes and so on. This has become a high-end marine tourism sector. Everybody will want to try this traditional ship, and they're willing to pay high costs, to enjoy and to try this traditional ship from Sulawesi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Indroyono. Very interesting. Before we move to the speakers representing the Netherlands, I may have a question to both Pak Son and Pak Indroyono. One of the purposes of our meeting is to explore collaboration between the Netherlands and Indonesia. How do you see that, Pak Son? And what could that entail? What could it incorporate? Collaboration. You seem to be doing a very good job. How would you like to collaborate with the Netherlands? Pak Son, can you maybe kick off? You're still muted, Pak Son. You're still muted, Pak Son. Pak Son? You're still muted. Yeah, please.
Pak Henry, actually, we could start with, say, letter addressed to Mr. Minister for Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs. Then, well, this is actually administration. But the thing is, of course, Indonesian government, I believe, yeah, Pak Indro could explain better actually. We'll welcome you to support this this contribution for development, revitalization, to promote the para shipping. Yeah, just collaborate. I believe it could be.
Okay, thank you.
Very possible.
Thank you. Pak Indroyono, would you like to add?
Can I ask my colleague from the Netherlands? I think we have experience working together to build Maruta Jaya. Is this from Netherlands, right? In the 80s, we built a sailing ship. We call it Maruta Jaya. It's jointly produced. Is this correct, Ason? It's produced by our colleague from the Netherlands. We designed together sailing ships and able to sail very fast. So that's number one. Number two, let's try the program. Okay, the letter is good, but let's join together, for example, to develop a prototype of PDC ships in a modern way. Okay, the initial activities the in-kind activities can be jointly prepared, but knowing this is already World Heritage in the UNESCO World Heritage List, the PNC, it is assumed to be possible, to mobilize resources also coming from others, and the ship will become later on owned by global communities, something like this. So this is, in 1986, we are able to build our own PNC and set sail this to Vancouver. We should be able to build the same thing like this, same scenario, but with a much better conditions, because, for example, again, it's in the UNESCO. If we set letter, for example, Pak to Menko Marves, to Pak Basilio, for example, to Pak Luhut, but I think and then during the annual meeting of UNESCO, we propose this one, because if you are in the UNESCO list, you have to report every 2 years, right, in the progress of this heritage. So maybe in the years, this year or next year or year after next, and we can prepare together. We propose, after we have Indonesia consolidate together, we propose that during the upcoming UNESCO annual meeting, we propose that we build PNC together, Netherlands, Indonesia, and invite others. I believe that many foundations will join to do this. This is from my side, Pak Henry.
Thank you, Pak Indroyono. There's one question from Pak Walter from Ambon, dari Ambon. Pak Walter, could you maybe unmute yourself and raise your question or your remark, please? Pak Walter, silakan.
Pak Walter.
Pak Walter, are you there? Hello, Pak Walter.
Yes, hello.
Please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, actually, talking about this traditional vessels, as I mentioned before with Pak Fritz Blessing, he is here. We know that those kinds of boats are operate in the centuries, from long time ago until now, and it contributes so much to carry the goods from the small island to the certain ports. But in fact, nowadays we have lost so much of the wood. I mean the marine classified wood. So nowadays those kind of ships are replaced with the material of composite or fiber reinforced glass, and it happens in many places, especially in Moluccas. I don't see so much in the other place, but in Moluccas we have a lot of problem with the wood, so it replaced with the wooden ships. But we forget that many fishes that export from Indonesia are mostly catch in Moluccans waterways. For example, the skipjack pole and line in Moluccas nowadays mostly built with composite. So, but the problems with composites is the environment. You know, that kind now is banned by IMO because of the problem of toxic of the material. So now people still make the boat with such kind of materials. But we have problem right now is the connect between the small island to the main port. We know a lot of product which exist in the small islands, but the problem is where is the market and what is the price. So we know poverty exists in such so much island. So in this case, my suggestion, as I write before, is one, the existence of Indonesian marine toll should be extended by the federal officials. So the federal officials can connect the marine toll to the traditional Pelra boat. This is one. Second, we have to improve the performance of the Pelra vessels, like stability, You know, everywhere we see the marine accident because of stability and loss of power and navigation, etc., etc. So we have to improve by introducing some new kind of vessel design. Not so much different from the existing one, but some aspect that we have to develop there. And the third is we have to justify or we have to arrange the market. Where is the market? Sometimes I go to the remote island to make the research, and the question is similar. Where is the market and what is the place? So in this case, we have to urge the government or the parties that we have to make some what to call it the market scenario, so the people in those areas can sell the product. So in this case, we hope that for the future, we have to develop the traditional boat by Pelra, and also we have to provide it, the market for the local people. I think more or less my comments, and maybe in the future we still have the work together to see this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Walter. There are two other interesting questions. I would first like to give the floor to Ibu or Bapak, sorry, one moment, Alek Nurwahyudi. Can you please make yourself known, and can you raise your question? Alek Nurwahyudi. Are you there? Hello? Yeah, please, Alek. We can't hear you yet, Alek. Yeah. Yeah. Please. Hello? Alek, we cannot hear you. Then I suggest we go to the next question. That's from Wegit, Mr. or Mrs. Wegit. Please. Can you unmute yourself, Wegit, and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Henry, for the opportunity given to me. Basically, I just want to remind myself that 8 years ago, I did a research regarding the possibility to swap the raw material of the Pelra shipping with the fabricated woods using the laminated veneer lumber. So I think it is one of good way to leverage the business feasibility aspect, since the ironwood, or we may know kayu besi, that now is the main source of the material of Pelra, is become scarce over time. You know, ever since the illegal logging of the ironwood itself has increasing. So I think we can consider this option. So I just want to know whether the association or the authorities have considered about it, and also how to attract more private players to join in developing this sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Pak Adriono, would you like to react?
Okay, I think in this one, let me change my hat because I'm the president of the APHI, Indonesian Forest Concessionaires. Yes, now for the moment, if you want to go to laminated woods, you have to find the best glue. Okay, now you have the best glue which is able, which is fire resistant, which is also resistant for others. Now it's being developed. So Pak Wegit, maybe this is not a traditional way, because in traditional way, PVC, for example, they want to go with the kayu besi, you want to go with kayu jati, they want to go to something, those kind of wood. But if those become scarce, we should go into LVL, right, or laminated wood. or OSB, strain wood to do that. Yes, now we are moving toward that. However, you have to find the best glue. So I said the glue is the one that need now to be developed. I say country like Japan, China, now they are not using Indonesian teak wood anymore for their furniture, for example. They are using laminated wood, but with a very high quality glue. This is the key. We are moving toward that also. Okay, that's what I can say, Pak Henry.
Thank you, Pak Indroyono. I would like now to move to our third speaker, Mr. Patrick.
Pak Henry.
Yeah, silakan.
Actually, you know, this is a very technical question, right? However, because it will be covered after this presidential regulation. This president regulation actually cover, number one is about ship construction as whatsoever. We'll discuss further in the next technical design. So we could contribute in it. Number two, the ports, right? The design, the materials, whatever. And the ministry for forestry shall provide the woods and shall develop the industry for woods. So we have to elaborate this. We can develop what would be the future development for that. So, for example, whether we are going to use laminated and others, this is perhaps the later question, right? But the thing is now the policy must be confirmed first, and after that the collaboration, right? After collaboration, in that collaboration we can develop more technical, and we will have also program for empowerment, developing the typology. I mean the types of size, the standard type of shapes according to size. 100 gross tonnage, for example, 200 gross tonnage, until the maximum 500 gross tonnage. And we could also develop the design. So this is so many things we can discuss for the more technical things.
Okay, thank you, Passon. I would now like to move to our third speaker of this afternoon. That is Mr. Patrick Hoijmans from the Netherlands, who studied naval architecture and control systems engineering in the United Kingdom. He is currently working, he has been working quite some years now at the MARIN, which is the Marine Research Institute of the Netherlands. And at this moment, he's the team leader for the transport and shipping team. And we look forward to your presentation, Patrick, please.
Thank you, Pa Henry. Let me share the screen. Start my presentation. Thank you also, Your Excellencies, and thank you participants for attending this webinar and allowing me to have my presentation. As Pa Susilo just mentioned, he would like to see a proposal for a demonstrator vessel, and well, that is in fact the topic that I would like to highlight today. But first, before I start my presentation, I would like to have a very brief introduction of MARIN. For those who are not familiar with the company, MARIN stands for the Maritime Research Institutes of the Netherlands, and we are founded in 1932. And we are a hydrodynamic research institute that is serving the entire maritime industry. So that includes ships, the ship operations offshore, but also new developments such as development of fish farms and renewable energies. Our mission is to make ships cleaner, safer and smarter, and make a sustainable use of our oceans. So that well connects also to the discussion that we are leading today about the development and making more sustainable Pelra vessels. So far about MARIN. Let me go back now to 2020. Last year, March, we had a trade mission to Indonesia. And during this trade mission, we had a visit to the Pelra fleet in Jakarta. And we observed the vessels, and we noted that indeed traditional built vessels were laying there alongside the quay, using a bit older engines. And here the idea was launched to develop more sustainable Pelra vessels, because we do realize that these vessels are very important to serve and to transport the remote areas. So transporting goods to small islands, onto the rivers. And in that sense, we also signed a letter of intent with ITS to further promote and to develop the Pelra fleet, to not lose this authentic fleet, and to modernize and to keep it alive. One of the items that was discussed in this during the meetings was that the Pelra fleet, the Pinisi vessels, are used for fishing and transport to small islands. The drawback is, and that is a parallel to the Dutch inland waterway fleet, is that budgets for research are very, very limited, or even not existing. So that makes it very difficult to start with this kind of vessels to modernize. For that reason, and also highlighted in the previous presentations, the tourism industry is a good start. Money is better available for research and for developments. And for that reason, we would like to, and that is my proposal for today, to develop and to actually build a demonstrator vessel. As we have seen in previous presentations, that innovations and changes in the business as usual are difficult. The current vessels are built in a traditional way. We just learned by 5 people, handcrafted, without any drawings. It's based on the skills of the workers. So to have radical changes, that will be very, very difficult. So we have to do that stepwise. And I think by a strong cooperation between Dutch knowledge and companies together with Indonesian stakeholders, we can first of all enhance the cooperation. I think when a lot of parties are involved, there is a lot of knowledge available, and all together we can discuss and come to a better and improved way for sustainable building. And that also brings a very steep learning curve, because, well, we can all read magazines and learn theory how things should be done, but really doing things brings you a lot more. You can read how to ride a bicycle, but doing is a way better. If we focus also on the tourism, it can bring publicity. Worldwide publicity, because if we have nice, fancy, luxury, safe Pinisi vessel for the tourism market, tourists will bring that information and spread that information worldwide, and to promote these technologies. And the thing is that also learning and doing this in a demonstrator vessel for the tourism, then the new gained knowledge can also be applied to the more traditional sectors like the fishing vessels and the transport vessels. And all together, when we are cooperating, we can also identify gaps in the current rules and regulations, because we have to make sure that these vessels can be classified and can fulfill requirements according to national and international safety standards. However, we do see that there are quite some challenges. Of course, we see some socio-economic challenges. We learned also that the economic development of poor sectors and regions is very important. And we think that the maritime tourism can improve the economics of remote regions, especially tourism. They would like to go to a bit more quiet and remote areas. So if we can promote it in this way, I think there's a good boost also financially, economically, for these remote areas. And one of the things is that we have to talk about safety, and especially important when you're carrying passengers and especially international tourists. And then of course also the reputation of the entire country for tourism is at stake. So we have to make sure that vessels are very, very safe and meet the national and of course also then international standards. And of course, that can be done by an improved design and construction of the small and medium size of the Pelra type cruise vessels. Build them with a traditional look in an authentic way, but with a new ship design and construction. So we have a higher efficiency, less resistance, better gears, clean fuels, etc. And that also leads to better economic outputs. And of course, there's, as I said, there are quite some technical challenges. There's first of all the classification of vessels. When there are no drawings, it's very, very difficult or even impossible to classify a vessel. So we have to change that we do build from drawings and vessels can be classified. If we can use laminated wood technology, that also contributes to a better sustainability of these vessels rather than to take the iron wood. And there are possibilities these days. And I think we should look into these and apply that and just make it happen. As I said, more efficient boats, better hull design for stability, for safety, with modern propulsion systems. And one of the things in the technical challenge is also that maintenance is, and in that region, for that aspect, simplicity is required. Because if you're sailing to remote areas, you have to make sure that also, in case of need, boats can be repaired. And another very important aspect is the training of people, how to sail with the vessels, how to acquire the new technologies, and that has to be, we need to train that. And for that, we have, and as Mr. Hans de Brabander already mentioned, there is a partnership in international business, a cluster of Dutch companies that are willing to cooperate and to share the knowledge with the Indonesian stakeholders. So I have listed the names of the companies that are in this PIB cluster of Dutch companies, and we are covering a wide range of products and expertise. And I will come back to that later on. So more concrete, what is the plan? The plan is to design a modern and safe PNC vessel, but respecting the authentic looks. It should look like it's an old style vessel, but completely modern. We do perform model tests to guarantee the performance and also to include the stability. So this onboard safety when passengers are there. Then after the design and testing phase, we actually built a PNC vessel according to these modern designs with modern equipment and according to national and international standards and classification. We do train people how to apply the new techniques, how to sail the vessel, and then we demonstrate the new sustainable, clean and safe ship, which can boost the maritime sector. First starting with the tourism, later on transferred to fishing and transport vessels. And of course, there's then compliance with potentially even new regulations for PNC, so vessels can be insured. I think that's also a very important aspect. And in fact, visualizing this concept is that we first start to design, then we do the model test, and we can cooperate, for instance, here with BPPT in Surabaya. There's nice facilities to do this kind of testing. Training can be organized at ITS. Then we do the actual building and later on the monitoring. And that means that we have a complete closed loop from concept to operation. And by having this complete loop available, we can learn from the first vessel and apply this to the next designs. So from the Dutch side, what do we bring? Well, in fact, we can support with an integrated green design. So searching for even also new ways of, or clean fuels, hydrogen, biomethanol, but maybe even batteries that could be applied. Of course, the sailing, that's even free energy. Propulsion systems, we can provide the training, we have the expertise and modern equipment for alarming and monitoring. That is what we can bring, but we are also looking for other aspects. So we need stakeholders from Indonesia because, as I said, we need to cooperate. We need to develop and create a strong cooperating group. So we already have the cooperation with ITS, but we also need some national and maybe also international support to the sector to promote this. Cooperation with the Pelra to make sure that we are still building according to modern, to authentic looks, but with modern designs. And then we have to establish cooperation with candidate shipyards and organize technical assistance for the local traditional shipyards, how to change their way of building in order to make the vessels more sustainable. Of course, we have to establish cooperation and provide technical assistance to the yards and to the operators, how to operate the new vessels, how to build them, how to maintain. And we can also include universities from Eastern Indonesia, so we can disseminate the knowledge and interact with the local ship owners and the shipyards. So we have to make sure that the entire sector is growing in this direction. Last but not least important, we need also funding for this demonstrator vessel. And for that, I would like to invite you to think and maybe to contact us so we can maybe develop the plans further. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Patrick. For the sake of time, I suggest you first go to the presentation of Pa Frits Blessing. And after that, if there's still some time, let's have an overall discussion. Pa Frits, please.
Thank you very much, Pa Henry. I'll try to share the web first. Pa Dubes, Pa Meijer-Vas, thank you for opening it. Pa Deputy Minister Basilio, Pa Hans den Brabander, thank you for your support. And of course, the previous speakers, Pa Son, Pa Indriono, and Pa Patrick. I will keep it short because we're running a little bit out of time. And if we talk about wooden boats, then I can fill all afternoon. People who know me know that. So a few things have been already discussed mostly in this afternoon. The service areas, the bottlenecks, try to put effort in it.
Are you sharing your screen already or not yet?
I did.
No, I don't see it. Just, I'm sorry, but we cannot see your PowerPoint presentation yet. Yeah, now we can see it. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
So, start again. But some of the things have been discussed already by previous speakers. So to save time for the discussion, I will skip that, and most people will get the sheets after this meeting, so you can read. We all agree that we should support the Pelra sector. But I think we all can agree that just giving away traditionally built ships to the sector, and even not to the sector, but to the provinces, is not the way. So over the past years, that started, I think, for me in 2012. So I'm a youngster compared to Pa Son, who is already busy with it for 20 years. I'm only busy with 8 years, I think, in it. Started with ITS. We said, well, there should be a more integrated plan. It's not only about ships, but also in creating awareness, in making regulations, in developing the market. And if you have to build new ships, you have to show that it works with a proof of concept. I come back later to that. Why the Netherlands? It has been mentioned already. There is inland shipping in Europe, and the Netherlands has 50% of the fleet. But very much comparable to Pelra are the Spitsen in the Netherlands. And why the Spitsen? Because that is the smallest type of inland shipping vessel sailing around in Europe. Also diminishing in numbers rapidly. It still built ships, but the last was built in 1973. And of course, they don't sail the sea like an Indonesians, but it is all captain-owned work. It's independent. The funny thing is, if you look to market developments, then those small Spitsen mostly work to international global companies like Tata Steel, Cargill, and DSM and others. So they managed to make contracts with bigger shippers to do it in the smallest ships available in Europe. And that's still profitable business. So here you can spot the Spits or spot the Peniches. The area is different, and the size is a little bit different. The Spitzes are up till 350 tons. Some Peniches also, but mostly smaller. But the market structure is more or less the same. So if you look to the Pelra action plan, and I'm very glad that Pa Son also mentioned that you need to look to the governance, the rules, and regulations, to the business models and cases, to the economic impact and the sector performance. Of course, also to the ship design and reviews, and to the societal impact. So I think in broad lines, we fully agree with the lines of working. Funny to say is that in the 80s and 90s of last century, there was a project between Indonesia and the Netherlands called Integrated Boat Building Project. And around 250 vessels were built in wood laminates and derived products. So there is already a lot of experience in working together between our two countries in building wooden or laminate vessels, including all the tests that are necessary to do with that. And the two people managing that in those times, Gerard Dijkstra and Joop de Schutter, they are in the audience, so maybe they can add some or answer some requests later. But over the past years, we have been working constantly to put Pelra on the agenda. So I'm very happy with this seminar so far. The Kapal Tuna Longliner was one of the ships built in the early 90s of last century. I'm talking about the economic viability of building in wood laminates. The owner said, "Seperti dia cetak uang," as if it is printing money, mister. This was the integrated boat building project. The archives of that project, the fully archives, including the designs, the tests, etc., is available at ITS in Surabaya. It has been given by Gerard Dijkstra and Joop de Schutter as a gift to Indonesia to restart building wooden laminate ships. ITS is still also experimenting with bamboo epoxies, which might also have a future, and maybe not yet for the Phoenicians, but at least for the small dinghies attached to it. Laminated teak and building in wood epoxies or wooden laminates is not only for the small ships, but also for the big ones. And not only for ships, but also for bridges. They are experimenting with it in Europe, and hotels like the picture shows here. Gerard Dijkstra, at the moment, you can say that he learned wooden boat building in Indonesia, but he designed a 141-meter ship, all wood construction. Classed, no problem. So we shouldn't have a discussion whether it's possible, but when we apply it in Indonesia. It's contemporary, well understood, proven technology, accepted by international classification societies, but not yet fully by BKI. So there's a challenge. Ship designs, Patrick told already on it. The advantage is that a lot of traditional yards can apply this kind of technology with the skills and the experience they have. It also contribute to sustainable forestry, and it could also be applied by maritime cultural heritage projects. Prauw Belang is requested from Banda Islands, the Majapahit vessel. A lot of parties so far have already been involved in this project between the Netherlands and Indonesia. The green ones, not yet, but all the black ones have confirmed their support or to the economic developments or the technical design or knowledge sharing or communities. So if necessary, we can mobilize very quickly. Concluding, I think wood has a great future, especially in Indonesia, but it needs to have a contemporary approach. A demonstrator vessel could help in improving the value and the advantages. We have already a lot of parties committed to work together, and Pelra really serves a serious approach by a strong sector policy and development. I fully agree with that, with Pa Son and Pa Indriono. So from my part, let's open the discussion further. Let's do it. Let's fund it together. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you, Pa Frits. I was so much in a hurry that I even forgot to introduce you, but I don't think you need much of an introduction here. It's only interesting to note that you are one of the few participants who has actually been sailing for more than 10 years. Maybe I can first ask Pa Gerard Dijkstra and Joop de Schutter, who are joining. Would they like to add something? Then if yes, Gerard, please, if you would like to add. Are you there, Gerard?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, very clear.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's very little I can add to it. But what is a major thing is that when Joop and myself and of course the whole IBP Indonesian team, which we worked with for more than 12 years, we had this type of discussions in those times. Yeah? And did not so much concentrate on Pelra, but we did concentrate on fishing boats and small ferries and some small tourism. But at that stage, the laminated wooden boat building was still in its infancy. Yeah? And unfortunately, due to circumstances, I think that since the start of this century, laminated wooden boat building did not develop as we would have liked to see. So I'm very pleased, and I'm sure that I'm also speaking for Joop and past team members, that being now part of this webinar gives us more hope for the future. And if we can assist in making this happen in a limited way, we would be pleased to do so. Wooden boat building, laminated wooden boat building, is not longer in its infancy, as you have seen to the big charter boats, sailing charter boats we have built and designed. And in Europe, and especially in Turkey, where the whole charter fleet of, I would say 1,000 boats at least, is being classified by RINA, an Italian classification society. So I think the infancy stage is past us, and if we can bring the experience from, for instance, the Turkish charter fleet into practice in Indonesia, that would be a very good step to take. And also I can say that laminated wood lasts for a long time. So we had built in 93 a small fishing boat in Indonesia for Mauritania. Yeah? And these boats, I know from personal experience, are still sailing. And so I think it is a very good approach, and what I've heard today sounds very logical to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. Pa Indriono dan Pa Som, we are very curious what you think about the presentations from the Netherlands. Do you see cocok? Do you see, how do you feel? Pa Som, maybe?
To me, this is very cocok. All things that actually covered in President regulation. Yeah. So you could enter actually to the program that will be designed for special program for starting perhaps next year. This will be according to the regulation, self-conduct integrated program covering ships, ports, marketing, finance, organizing, business management, as well as training, etc. Right. So this is very complete policy for developing 1,000 ships, new ships, for 5 years. It does not include yet 5,000 ships for fishing, perhaps, that we would like to design too, yeah, Pak Indro. Because in the future, fishing ship also needed for that. And perhaps we could make, say some combination between authentic shape and the more modern kind of requirement for fishing. The thing is that I would like to mention the most important thing for drawing, right? It is stated in the regulation that the ships must be built in a shipyard, professional shipyard, certified. So we could combine still technology procedures and ritual procedures. As Pak Indriyono explained, right? We could still combine on it. Now the thing is, it is also possible a group of craftsmen certified. So not always a company, yeah, a group of craftsmen certified. What the certifications needed is the technology. So must be starting with drawing, of course. So no more without drawing, yeah. Because we also want to develop modular parts of the ships. So if we need, for example, windows, right? So we don't need to cut the tree. So everything could be modular. Say parts could be numbers for 100 gross tonnage, for example. We need kind of what they call it, a piece of wood, number what in front of what, right? So we could produce it in fabricated wood product. This is what our ideals. So this is not cutting the tree every time. Another thing that I would like to share with you that because I bring aspiration of the community. Pelra is a community, right? The very traditional community. So as I'm still advisor for Pelra. This is the important thing, the message for them. Pelra must be involved in whatever the development, because it is true that we would like to build for the national interest, for the better heritage, etc., right? But please remember the prime stakeholders is them, Pelra community. So including perhaps the business-wise as well as the priority for giving chance, giving what they call that training, etc. for Pelra. Yeah, I think
thank you, Pak Som. Yeah.
It would be good. That's Indonesia Pelra. Please involve from the beginning. Yeah, thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Indriyono.
Henry, Sunday, can I add a comment to what I said?
Yes, please.
I just noticed that Dob Beer is in the audience. I did not notice that before. But of course, Dob Beer was our most important counterpart during the first stages of IBP with the introduction of KIT boats at PT KIT in Jakarta. So I haven't seen you for a long time. Hello, Dob. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, thank you. Pak Indriyono, please.
Yes, Pak Henry, I think one thing I'd like to ask you, maybe you can answer. This is the 4th webinar, right? Indonesia-Netherlands cooperation. What is the umbrella of this cooperation? Is this a MOU between minister or something? Do you know? Do you recall? Or maybe based on the meeting between the Prime Minister with the President Jokowi or something like that? If it is, usually they have a technical group. We have to meet every year, remember? Or if not, we make it every year, in which everybody report the progress. And we have this kind of scenario, okay? Let's start, you know, this from, for example, Marine, from Marine. I mean, Marine is from Marine, and maybe from ITS. They work together, just set a proposal, and ready to be presented in the upcoming technical meeting of this umbrella. Can I ask you first, Pak Henry, what is this Indonesia-Netherlands cooperation in maritime cooperation? What is this? It's just a are there any umbrella agreement or MOU or something like that? Can I ask you?
Thank you, Pak. There is an umbrella, and one Pak Edwin Kleingeld of the Netherlands Ministry for Infrastructure and Waterways. I hope he's still with us. Are you here, Edwin? Then please, can you say something about the bilateral maritime forum?
So thank you. If it is, you know, I think they have to report every year, right? Progress of the collaboration. For that issues, Pak Henry, let us in this meeting today start with the ID. Okay, Pak Sondiawar will bring us the latest progress of the Pelra, presidential decree. It's going to come from Pak Sondi on the Pelra. And then from the collaboration of Marine and ITS, they propose, for example, to develop a prototype demonstration vessel of PNC. And okay, we bring this, and then number 3, PNC already accepted as a UNESCO World Heritage List. Okay, so and then based on that, you know, if we are able to bring this into the technical, interministerial or high-level meeting, this become a commitment of 2 countries, and usually the government will share, and also the private sector will share. And in Indonesia, we have what we call it governor or local government. For example, suppose that, okay, we're gonna build, I'm sorry, let me put myself as a PNC for tourism, right? We're gonna build this for Lombok. I mean, because for West Nusa, NTB, Nusa Tenggara Barat, Pak Sondi. So the governor will pitch in, Minister of Forestry will pitch in, because, and then Menko Marves will pitch in, Transportation will pitch in, ITS will pitch in, BPPT will pitch in. So we have already some resources. Your side also something like this, and we report this in the annual or biannual RI Indonesia Maritime Cooperation. You know, if we have this, we should be able to run this. Let me assure you, President Jokowi already committed to visit Netherlands every year or every other year, remember? So usually, if this is running quite well, you know, our ambassador, Pak Mayervas, and our Minister of Foreign Affairs will put input for report, right? For this summit of the 2 leaders. If we can start with this collaboration, there is some interest coming from today, I think we should proceed. I'm curious, you know, Pak Hendrik, I'm curious. How many, if you have 4 webinars already, that at least you have been 4 years. If we have 4 this collaboration, how's the progress? Because this is the most very important.
Yeah. Okay. And luckily, we have Pak Edwin with us from the Netherlands Ministry for Infrastructure and Waterways, and he can tell you a little bit about the umbrella. Edwin, please.
Can we? Okay. Let's say, can we use this as the what do you call it? Progress next to do of our meeting, because this is I really would like to have something progress, you know, not just a webinar and finish, no. But
no, sure.
Please help us. You know, you have. I saw very good ideas coming from Marine. You know, plan to build demonstration vessels, and Pak Sondiamar already said yes. There is a presidential decree coming out and something. But if there is, and we use this, you know, with the presidential decree, with the UNESCO, with the MOU between two ministers. I think if you have to invest, let's say, if you have to invest, apa tadi itu berapa tuh? 15 miliar begitu kan, kecil dong. Huh?
Well, thank you very much.
Yes,
thank you. Yes, Henry. Well, we have an MOU. It's just for the third time. It's enlarged in February 2019. And we're working together with the Indonesian government and our Ministry of Transport and Water Management. And the idea is this year, in 2021, we combine all the results of the seminars we have organized now. And we hope that we can organize what you called a bilateral maritime forum. It's just every year in or Indonesia or in the Netherlands. And then we can talk about the results and further cooperation about the topics we have spoken the last months and what we can do also in the coming months. So we hope we can organize the BMF in September of this year.
Okay.
And then maybe it could be here in The Hague. Well, we will wait and see what's happening now with the COVID situation. Otherwise, it will be digital, and otherwise it will be organized in The Hague. And the idea is that your minister, Luhut, will get an invitation of our new Minister of Transport in coming summer of this year.
So
Thank you.
I propose, for example, since Minister Luhut will be invited, we can ask Deputy Minister Basilio to be our focal point in Indonesia. Okay,
yeah.
And then we regroup. And who's your counterpart in the focal point in the Netherlands? So by the time Minister Luhut goes to Netherlands on September, we have something on paper which agree upon in the high level meeting already. So this they can be adopted, and by doing so, it's easy to mobilize resources with projects. You know, if you do some collaboration without any projects or prototyping project, it will go nowhere. You know, I think it's not good for all of us. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Pak Edwin, this is my proposal.
Yes. Okay. We consider it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Edwin.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at my watch. It's 5 o'clock here in Jakarta. Okay. So it's high time I have to close the meeting. Please stay with us if you would like to if you would like to chat. We're not closing yet the Zoom link, so you can still be online. But first of all, I would like to thank very much all the speakers, Pak Son, Pak Indroyono, Pak Patrick, and Pak Frits. Thank you much for your participation and for your presentations. I also would like to thank our friends at the Indonesian Embassy in The Hague. Pak Kusnu, thank you. Bu Christine and Bu Raisa, who helped us a lot with the organization of this event. And from the Netherlands Embassy here in Jakarta, I would like to thank Pak Melger, who's still here with us. He helped us a lot also in the organization of this event. We are aiming at having our next meeting maybe in the end of April or beginning of May. I'm aware that it is the Bulan Puasa, the fasting month, but we are still trying to go ahead. But for now, I would like to thank you all very much for your participation. Selamat siang, selamat sore, and hope to meet you again in the future. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Pak Indro.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Pak Indroyono, Pak Frits.
Pak Dubes.
Terima kasih, Pak Dubes. Ada acara lain, Pak Son. Salam ke semuanya, salam hormat dan salam sehat dari Pak Dubes.
Ketemu lagi.
Siap, makasih.
Terima kasih, Pak Gustu.
Makasih.
Terima kasih. Pak Gerard Dijkstra, Pak Joop de Schutter, Monica Bouwman, Frits Blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Sama-sama.
Je zit eronder.